Hey yo, it's your boy Agent Albatross here again with the Cypher Unlimited crew. We have our usual suspects of Spigs18 or Anthony. We have Alpha Dean or AD or just plain old Dean. And Dean, why are we here today?
Well, today is a pretty special episode because the guy we're interviewing today, Christopher Robin Negelein, affectionately known as Ganza Gaming or Cypher Unlimited, was our first interviewee when we first started this, just about a year ago now, or
A
just
little
over a
over.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably like 14 months now, something like that.
Yeah, so, you know, this is like a recap. We're more polished now. We can properly interview him because that first interview was a little bit of a train wreck.
I am throwing no stones in that glass house.
So, for those of people out there who don't know him, like I said, we affectionately know him as Ganza Gaming on Cypher Unlimited. Great writer, great content creator. One of the guys over from Alley Gator Alley who works on Esper Genesis, which kind of will remind you of Mass Effect using the D&D engine. And I could continue on telling you all this great stuff, but we're going to throw the ball over to Chris and let him speak a little bit before we jump into the interview. So, Chris, tell our viewers anything you want to tell them right about now.
Well, I feel like you got it all covered, but well, like you said, I'm with the Alligator Alley Entertainment Group and do Esper Genesis, which is using the 5e engine to do a science fiction world. And if you can play a cleric, you can play an engineer. That's how compatible it is. But my claim to fame on the Cypher Unlimited Discord, representing, we all are. I see. There we go. Nice. Before I did that, I got my start on the Cypher community content. And at one point, I had a third of the catalog. I'm now down to 25%. But I have several adventures that can be used for fantasy or Gods of the Fall. I have a crazy bridge product that lets you do both, bringing D&D concepts and archetypes into your Cypher game for those players that are just being a little confused because, they're already losing their system. Now you're telling them they're losing their classes. Or you could use it to put fantasy into Gods of the Fall because remember in that book, there's a sidebar that says, hey, you don't have to be demigods. You can just be a regular fantasy crew. I've done something for a couple of project PDFs for science fiction and several adventures you can use for, like I said, fantasy Gods of the Fall. And the latest one I have, Changing Seasons, is actually straight out fantasy this time. So if you're looking for fantasy, there you can look right there. And it'll be something a little different, a little dark. I didn't mean for it to start out dark, but that's kind of
fun. Chris?
Yes.
Chris. We love you, Chris. We love us some Ganza Gaming. You were probably one of the first people to, if not you, we're in the top 20 to join our server. You've been with us on this crazy ride from the beginning, and, you're going to always hold a special place in our hearts. You're always supportive of us, and not only do you do great content, and we use everything from Mortal Fantasy, all the stuff that you do, you're one hell of a guy, and I just wanted to tell you that,
Well, thank you. You guys have been extra crazy supportive of me, and I can't tell you, for being a creative, how awesome that is. I mean, I did try to do my own podcast, my own YouTube, around the same time Critical Role was hitting. And, you see 3 thumbs up and 1 thumb down, and that's all you get. Then you just you quit. And then I found out later, actually, Anthony, that you had watched some of my stuff. And that's actually where you kind of originally knew from was, the Nerdstravaganza podcast YouTube site.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. We said that in the first video, but when you joined the server, I immediately knew who you were from that. So I was probably one of the 3 people giving you a thumbs up.
We're so far back, we have our own in-jokes.
Yeah. So, I was going to ask you how'd you get into gaming, but you actually kind of answered that a little bit. And you said something that Arcana of the Ancients. What are your feelings on that?
On what?
On Arcana of the Ancients. What do you...
Arcana of the Ancients?
What do you think of Numenera going over to 5e?
Well, I'm of two camps on that, and I'm sure a lot of people are. One, sometimes over the years, I've always been beating my head against that brick wall of getting people not to do D&D because D&D was the thing, and I'm talking about this before 3.0 came out. It's like, hey guys, you do this vampire thing? No.
Right.
You want to do this hard sci-fi thing I did with GURPS? No. And I didn't like D&D because I couldn't get anyone to play anything else. But on the flip side, I am hoping that this not only helps Muddy Cook Games, those guys deserve all the credit and success they can get. So I hope it makes them feel a little more secure financially for the entire team, as well as maybe tempt a few people to try Cypher instead. And if not, then, I still have Chaosy Tech. So this is just more of that for me for 5th edition. So if you guys won't play Cypher and I can't get you there, I'm going to still get all my crazy science fiction and science fantasy stuff. And you're going to probably wish you had played Cypher with me instead. I'll be a little passive aggressive about all that crap.
Definitely, man of our own heart in that sentiment. But either way, now that Esper Genesis has been out for a while, out in the wild, and you've gained the experience of designing for a 5e system product, how did designing for 5e compare to designing for Cypher system? And I kind of know the answer to this question, but which do you prefer to design for?
5e is okay, and I probably would have been doing it faster if the specter of Pathfinder wasn't in my past. I thought, it's breaking down. I'm getting into it. But the reason why I started with Cypher community content was because Cypher was just so much easier, to design for. And it's an asymmetrical game, so making something for the game master is 10 times easier. And then just for, further complication, a lot of the stuff we do for this is organized play, so it has to really kind of be on its game, because if it's not, you will hear about it. So I do, and basically for me, if I'm going to play 5e, it's going to be this if I can help it. Because my buddy Rich Lescofair that was on a couple of sessions ago, he's really kind of tweaked it to the way I like it, and I just have a lot more story options doing science fiction than fantasy.
It's a good choice because that's an excellent game and an excellent book. You guys did a great job.
It's a
what Rich gets 98% of the credit. He gets 100% of the credit. He did 98% of it. He deserves that 100%. Even with that tiny 2% that I helped out with, he gets 100% because it's an awesome product and an awesome world, and I like playing in that sandbox.
I do agree. Like I said, I don't know if I'm ever going to get the opportunity to run it, but it is good stuff. I've actually read that particular book cover to cover, and I pick it up periodically just to go over little things because it is inspirational. It's very well thought out. You guys did some excellent work, and whatever 2% you put in there, that 2% is pretty damn awesome.
Thank you.
But moving on to all that, we always talk about all this stuff. So I think you kind of said that too already, but do you have a preferred genre to design for? And is it the same genre you prefer to play as a player and as a GM? So it's kind of like a 3-part question here.
Okay, so if I skip a part, let me know. When I run, I like to run a little closer to something that is science fantasy to some degree, because then I can go with whatever inspiration hits me, and sometimes that science fantasy can be more like, pulp or very soft sci-fi. And when I play, I'm a little more, flexible when it comes to playing. I'll play fantasy. Right now I'm playing horror monster of the week. My group 2.5 years ago, most of them hadn't even rolled dice. They just heard about this cool show called Critical Role. They wanted to come in. At the time, I was running Esper Genesis. And I said, it's 5e, it's just not fantasy. And people kind of took me on my faith and jumped in. I take that back. We were also doing Cypher, too. Nice. And 2.5 years later, they're running the games for me. I get to play and design. So, woohoo!
It's always nice getting into that player seat when you're always the GM.
Yeah.
Right. Well, my buddy Brian was like, man, if you're really a true game master, instead of wowing your players, you need to turn them into fellow game masters. And I was like, challenge accepted.
That is a great point.
That is. I mean, with these guys and Cypher Unlimited, I get to play a lot more than I ever have. But the game master bug is just ridiculous. But the last part of the question was, do you have a preference in designing? Is there a specific?
Oh, designing. Oh, yeah. I did prefer to design in Cypher.
Okay. Or genre-wise?
Oh, genre-wise? Depends on the setting. I'd lean more towards science fantasy.
Okay. Awesome.
Because there's some fantasy settings that are just balls to the wall crazy, and I prefer to design kind of, Yeah.
You mentioned, this is one of our questions, but you mentioned Monster of the Week. How is that game? I've never played it.
That's one that's powered by the Apocalypse.
Yeah.
And Powered by Apocalypse is, it's kind of like Fate was. Everybody's kind of now doing their own hack of it. And the basic engine is you have 2d6. You have some skills that you can add a 1 or 2 to. You roll it. If it's 6 or under, you're screwed. Getting a P that you can apply towards, growing up in level. If you do from like a 7 to a 10, you have mixed results. You hit the bad guy, but the bad guy hits you. Or you succeed at something, but you're failing forward. And then 10 or above, you succeed. Like you may decide that you don't want to take the damage from the bad guy or give him more damage. And that's kind of it. And the other innovation they have is they have a 2-page character sheet. And basically one half is a worksheet that helps you go through. And then the other half is recording what you did on your worksheet, and everything is spelled out. So when it comes to getting people up to speed, it's kind of nice. They can pretty much, they may not know the system real well, but they can tell what they're reading through, and they know what their powers are. They don't have to go flipping through a book. And Monster of the Week is pretty much Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Supernatural, Men in Black. You're hunting down some sort of crazy creature, and you have to do investigation and then finally fight it, which I think is a perfect fit for that system.
Yeah, it's one of like the 20 games or so I have on my shelf that I own but haven't actually read. I'm like so horrible. But I bought it at last year's Gen Con, and I still, along with like 8 other games that I haven't gotten around to reading, but I'll get to it eventually.
Monster of the Week is actually a pretty solid game. I've played 2 or 3 sessions. That's, like I said, online has opened up a lot of doors. As a matter of fact, speaking of Powered by the Apocalypse, somebody actually is the 27th, they want me to play in a Star Wars hack Powered by the Apocalypse. So,
The only Powered by Apocalypse game that I actually have any experience in, even though I own a couple of the games, is Dungeon World. And I think Dungeon World is a great game.
Oh, yeah. They're all, I think they're all pretty good. I mean, with the narrative-based games, once you figure the nuances, I think that's the hardest thing about a narrative-based game is just understanding the nuances. Once you get the nuance of it, they flow pretty damn nicely.
Yeah, my only advice would be, when it comes to, the players have moves that tell them how they can do things, and then they have, a set of GM moves, and I think it gets a little overboard when a lot of the GM moves are basically what GMs do anyway. Yeah, it's more for like trying to help a new person, and I think people kind of get way too caught up in what move do I need? Just do what you do.
Right.
If you're lost for a second, that's a time to look and see if a GM moves inspires you. But if it doesn't, put the GM moves to the side and don't let them
just run
your flow.
Ever since you joined the CU, like I stated earlier, which has been very early on, you've been an excellent resource for advice for members, not only experienced gamers, but, new gamers alike. So with Best Game Ever coming out shortly, do you have any advice for our listeners who may be first-time GMs or just new to gaming in general?
So I want to think of this in like terms of Cypher, but now I'm going to go back and think kind of general. I mean, when it comes to being a GM, I actually had this on a question on Twitter already. So here's a little secret, maybe a little 102 versus 101. if you haven't described it, it does not exist yet for your players. So when you think about that and think about it a couple of levels deep, that means a couple of things. That means if they don't go through half the dungeon, it didn't exist. So you don't have to force them to go through the whole dungeon. That's just material you can take away and recycle later at some point, whether it's the individual encounters or that whole half of that dungeon. It also means that, you know, if they haven't found a clue you need and they're still having trouble and they look again, then hey, they found that clue the next time. You know, you can create something out of nothing, or like I said, you can have something that you can save for later, because if you did not describe it, it doesn't exist.
I like that concept a lot, because a lot of the time as a GM, and new GMs will find this out very quickly, the things you plan will oftentimes get skipped. The players have a funny way of just being like, whoop, going right around whatever you had planned, and putting that in your back pocket for later is definitely very valuable advice.
Yeah, a lot of new GMs are just so afraid if they don't have, you know, if everything they have planned isn't seen or heard, then it's wasted. It's not wasted.
Yeah, prep is never wasted. Prep is a reusable resource.
Yeah, prep is prep.
There's a great book by the Lazy GM. He just did a second edition. And it's a good read. It's a lot of ways to kind of like kind of put your prep in a format that helps streamline it. And again, that lets you kind of just, hey, if they didn't see it, that's just more stuff in the bank for later.
Yeah, I pretty much like everything Sly Flourish does.
Exactly. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
But now that we got some advice for our for our new GMs, what's some advice for potential new game designers? Do you have any advice for them, like as far as breaking into the industry, maybe getting more work done, staying motivated to do work, that sort of thing?
Well, my first advice is, you know, the community content programs are a great way to get everything together, you know, and part of it is you should try your best, but, you know, it's not going to be perfect the first time, and that's all right, you know. Let's see what some other advice I can give on that front. You know, if you need to, just start off with a very simple layout and design and to get your stuff out. You can always find stock art on Drive-Thru-RPG. And if you're doing something for 5th edition, oh my God, no one has a bigger library of like stock art. It's free because you're doing something for 5th edition. It's like you go to any other, you know, content program, and some offer some stock art and some don't. And then there's great amounts of stock art people are putting out on Drive-Thru-RPG. But, you know, you look at what Wizards is giving out and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
They definitely want to try to attract people to make stuff for them. I mean, that's an awesome way to do it because people love good art.
It helps. I mean, I guarantee that the better my covers got, the more clicks I got. That's for sure. If you look at my stuff, all 19 PDFs, you can see the evolution of my layout and design skills.
Well, I know, you know, about that personally firsthand because I got to work with this guy. He actually did the layout for my mixtape when it was great. Freaking out.
Thank you.
And it did come out very nice. If you haven't seen it, go check it out.
This is just a random question. What was your best selling book on Drive-Thru for the Cypher Creator Program?
That would pretty much be the Electrum seller, which is Mortal Fantasy, which is that double bridge product of, you know, putting more traditional fantasy elements in Gods of the Fall and letting people play D&D archetypes in their Cypher game.
Awesome.
Makes sense that that's most popular.
And
That's the first one I ever purchased as well.
That's a good segue into, you know, what we're going to talk about. And it's kind of crazy because I had bought Mortal Fantasy and the adventure that went with it. What was that one, Ganza?
The one in Mortal Fantasy or the one next?
The adventures for Mortal Fantasy.
Well, there's one in Mortal Fantasy, and then I have like 3 adventures for Gods of the Fall.
Well, yeah, the Adventures for Gods of Fall. That's what I bought. Those are the first things I bought by you, and never even connected it once we started talking on, Cypher Unlimited. Didn't connect it till the one day I'm going. Wait a minute, Gons. Oh, that's that guy. And bought crews and all that good stuff. So,
Thanks. I do want to give a shout out to our Cypher Unlimited mod Char, because she took a second pass at the layout, and my layout was solid, but she definitely put some extra polish and some extra editing, and I greatly appreciate that.
First of all, she's we haven't revealed it yet, but she designed our new logos. They should be coming out soon.
Yeah, her and her husband Rob.
Oh yeah, they're great guys. We've gamed together.
A+ team.
Oh yeah, we've gamed with Shar quite a bit. I've never gamed with Rob, but
I think Rob was in a game I ran once. I think he was in Predation. I forget. It's been a while.
We were
That was a
Game
long time
Hall.
ago.
Actually, what was funny is we were all at Game Hall. We three met, and we're like, "Hey, you are! Oh, you are!" And we're sitting there. We're waiting for our game master, and waiting.
I don't know.
Waiting. He has a no-show.
Oh,
and they're like,
no.
"So, Chris, could you game master for us?" And I was like, "Hey, I'm working on a thing. Let's give it a try." As far as they told me, they had a great time. They have not.
And if you do want to watch Robin Shar game, you can always catch them on the Raven Death Twitch channel, because they're current actors on the
Vert live stream.
Yeah, the Vert live stream.
So yeah,
every Thursday, I believe.
Yeah, something like that. So basically, we were talking about that huge catalog of yours and everything, And our question is, do you have a favorite? Number one, I'll get you with these, multiple part questions. But number two, is there something that you haven't designed yet for the Cypher Creator Program that you want to see?
Well,
or that you need to do, I should say.
Well, my top favorites, one is Mortal Fantasy, because that was a big project and I was greatly rewarded for it. Thank you, every single person who bought a copy. I appreciate it. And I like the little mini island settings I put together, though they haven't been as popular. Nathema, I'm trying to remember their names now, and I see them like once a week. And let's see. So one was basically Cypher Greek Fantasy, Naphtha. Mayayu is a bamboo punk, silk punk style island. Thora is the undead island where liches, a village of vampires, and a small empire of intelligent ghouls are constantly fighting with each other. God help you if you land on that island. Then one where it was a collection of islands where it's intelligent hobgoblin Vikings.
Okay, now that sounds like a lot of fun. All right.
And they even have a optional super secret background that connects them to the Cypher game I was running for a while. Basically kind of Cypher Spelljammer in space.
Nice. So, and is there anything for the Cypher content that's not out there yet that you're, jonesing to create?
Funny you should ask. The Solar Sails game I just mentioned.
Nice.
And that's also, and there's my all the projects I do on my Patreon, I want to do a Cypher equivalent to. And that's the thing about game design that's like even worse than trying to do fiction. Once you get it and you kind of got it, you just keep coming up with more and more ideas, and there's just not enough time in the day. And it's like you don't want to become just like how it was when I was writing fiction. I'm not more attracted to I get to be a writer. I'm sitting here writing. Find my pipe. It's just like, could I get paid enough where I'm not starving and my bills are okay, but I get to 8 hours a day, get this stuff that's bursting out of my head onto the page and out into the wild to just out.
I understand. If I could, I would trade my 12 hours to create stuff, because there's always an idea floating around. I mean, I was going to tell these guys, and it's coming up. I'm going to put it up. I mean, I haven't run anything in a while. So there's going to be a Men in Black Cypher one shot going up soon, because I watched Men in Black International. It was actually surprisingly good.
Wait, there's another Men in Black movie?
Yeah.
Men in Black International.
What? How have I not heard about this?
And it's great.
I don't know.
What's really cool is that the other movies happened, but it's not leaning on them. It's its own thing. Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson have great chemistry. It's freaking cool as hell. I was like, okay, now I want to run a Men in Black one shot on the server, and yeah, it's gonna happen.
Anything with those two together as the main actors, from this point on, I'll watch them in anything. They're great.
Yeah, their chemistry was like off the scale in this one.
Men in Black is actually a real cool universe to play around in because
It
it's
is.
pulpy, science fiction, and it touches everything.
I won't let you remember.
And what's really nice too is in this one you find out Ariana Grande is an alien.
Spoilers.
We all knew
My
that.
suspicions.
You just ruined it for Al.
I'm never watching another movie ever again. That's it. Never
Oh, here
again.
we go.
That's it.
You don't watch movies anyway, so it's
And so, Chris, you freshly back from Origins, and I know we had talked earlier. You wanted to touch on, Origins and maybe the difference between Origins and Gen Con. But was there any products or anything your guys were releasing that really sparked your interest that you want to talk to us about?
Oh Lord. So I was told by somebody who's gone to both events for quite a while. They say that crowd-wise, Origins is about where Gen Con was 10 years ago, which for a lot of people makes Origins now very tempting because there's a lot less crowds. Everybody's pretty much kind of there. I mean, they may not have the big premiere thing they're going to do, but there's still new stuff that comes out. But, and they still have, it's such a con, so things are still kind of on sale and on discount. And there's new things you can look at. One thing that kind of blew my mind is there's this company called Level Up. And I am not exaggerating. Their booth looks like a diamond seller booth. Like a Jared's. Or what's another one I'm thinking of?
Hayes.
Yes. And of course, they're selling dice that are made out of crazy metals and semi-precious stones, and they have them in little displays. So it's a whole dice set plus a little pendant of the matching material.
My
I
God.
saw a hematite one, right? Ooh, that heft of that D20 was sexy.
My
But
God.
the question for your wallet is, was the whole set plus the pendant $95 worth of sexy?
Yes. I haven't even seen them, and I will say yes.
I think they have like plain metal $200 dice sets.
You do realize you're talking to two individuals who have a dice problem.
Such a problem.
I'm not helping.
If I had the money, I would definitely no, I can't even.
On one of these videos one day, I'm just gonna grab my dice and just start showing you the trades of dice and the dice that are continually coming in from Kickstarters and things like that. Don't you have Kickstarter dice behind you there, Al?
I mean, they're my Q Workshop dice. Like these boxes up here, it's all freaking different dice, like Halloween themed. These are really cool.
I'm telling you, man, if you saw the Level Up booth, there would have to be an intervention.
I don't know where the actual dice. Oh, they're in my book bag. That's far away.
So, but yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed Origins. Also, since it was smaller and everybody's there as much as they are, because Origins is a show that's connected to Gamma, which is the
Great show.
Yeah, they're the professional industry for gaming. All the publishers and freelancers and distributors and stuff are there. They even have their meeting at that particular show. And
This video is gonna ruin it for everybody.
yeah, you can kind of still network at Gen Con because again, everybody's there, but it's much easier to actually bump into somebody more than once when you're at Origins. Now, it's not perfect. Yes,
I've never been to Origins, but how is it like the arranging of games? Is it very accessible to find games to play in as if you're just a visitor?
I mean, there's an event line where you can go get an event, and they have like program books lined up. And the book, I wish I brought one. It's like as thick as this, if not a little thicker. Paperback that's nothing but freaking events for miniatures, RPG, board games. And if you're there day of and you didn't do anything online, you have to go there and, kind of tell them I want this game and this game and that game. What I do is I go to the general ticket booth. It's kind of cool. They have the tickets in $2 denominations, and they give it to you as a little plastic token.
That's neat.
Alone, I'm like, hey, I just bought myself a $2 souvenir.
I would definitely have kept one.
Definitely, yeah. You're like, well, you missed one, but I've got 3 souvenirs. I'm cool. Everything's done in even denominations, so there's no change making. You have to sweat for that.
I think I'm gonna do Origins next year. I've never been.
Where was that again?
Origins. It's in Columbus, Ohio. Oh, and it's kind of the same setup as Gen Con. There's a convention center with some connected hotels in some sky tunnels. What are we going to call skywalks?
Yeah,
Skywalks.
But it's not. The distance is not half as what it is at Gen Con.
Is there a waiting list for a hotel? Because it's like,
I think there still kind of is, but don't quote me. But there is a food court that's like right there, like in the middle of the convention center. That has pretty good food, Indian food, and Greek, and the great old fashioned burgers and stuff like that. I would just go sooner or later.
Well, I guess Origins might be what we need to do next year, Anthony, and it's only 4 hours away from me.
What?
Yeah, you should
Ohio, I can get to Columbus, Ohio in 4 hours.
That's very far away from me now.
I should have seen you there, man. I'm telling you.
I do want to go back to conventions, though.
Yeah, next year we'll do Origins.
And hopefully me.
Here first.
Maybe I'll make it part of my East Coast trip, go to Origins and visit New York City and all that. But,
I would have thought about it this year, but like when we were talking earlier, Chris, Monica Games didn't have a booth there, so that kind of like killed my desire to go this year. I'm pretty sure they'll have one next year, so I'll make it for Origins next year.
We'll just beg Darcy.
Just like, go, we're gonna be there. You gotta go. Like, entice them.
We need a Monty Cook booth. We need an MCG booth at Origins. You heard it here first. Cypher Unlimited's coming.
Yep, we'll be there.
But convention talk aside, we touched on your game design a little bit. Where do you find your inspiration for your game design? Like, what
Everywhere.
kind of anything in specific that like really sparks like any like specific genre of book or movie or maybe video game or whatever have you, music? Like,
everything. Well, even sometimes just making the product inspires it. A little thing I did on my Patreon is when I was doing Changing Seasons, a little bit was the art, and then just having to put something there and putting something clever, and then going back and tweaking it again, inspired how to make the monster, and just all kind of, sometimes it's a little bit of everything. I know it's kind of a vague answer, but I've always been pretty good about coming up with a snap answer to like, quick think this, when it comes to like improving and, or thinking up something silly. And then just, it's a matter of killing off the things that are too silly to the point where, silly comes from being silly to being kind of a rule of cool. If that makes any sense. Am I like, totally
that definitely makes sense.
It makes a ton of sense. I mean, that's the whole point. I get it. I mean, inspirations, if you're creative, they do probably come from everywhere. Sometimes I just hear a sentence or somebody will say something like you just said, changing season. Now I got an idea for something to deal with season changes to write, it's like right? Changing season and monster. And it was like a whole thing. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I should talk to Ganza about this. Let's do changing seasons too.
So Alan Anthony, how long did the three of us just riff for forever on the buddy cop thing? How long? We did that for about a solid hour almost, didn't we?
Yeah, pretty much.
Probably, yeah.
The old in joke was, I don't know, one time we were just goofing off and we decided to just, do in-character role play right there on the server about a buddy cop show, which ended up being in an oubliette full of poop and shovel. Whenever you see me say, "Why am I holding the shovel?" That's the in joke.
Oh, I
Calls back to the
my
buddy
memory's
cop
so
thing.
bad. I do vaguely
that?
remember this stuff.
Yeah, I remember that specifically because it was hilarious. And it was for way over. It was probably 2 or 3 hours actually.
Could have been.
Yeah.
Way too much free time I don't have anymore.
Are you an improv GM or are you a prepper? Just
A little bit of both. I over prep and then I will abandon all of it to improv. Or sometimes I'll do the opposite. I'll be like, bah, I'll improv and then really wish I prepped, and I'll go back to kind of over prepping. Well, like just for like the show, I read the stuff, but I still kind of wanted to show up at the table a little bit earlier to kind of redo it. And in my head kind of start coming up with what the flavors or the portrayals of the NPCs would be like. By about the third time I did it, the second time I did it, I was like, you know what? This kind of happens here, this kind of happens here, this kind of happens here, and it just all kind of, I could just run it off my head and improv it.
It made me just think about something, and I can ask actually everybody on the screen right now this question: Do you find sometimes that the players at the table cause you to switch up your game, or your plans because
you
the
mean
players
don't give the GM ideas?
Exactly.
What I say?
Absolutely. And I could give like perfect examples of the Warriors game. When we ran the Warriors, I ran it 3 times. One time people were familiar with the material, and I could sense that group wanted the material from the movie inserted into the game because that was part of the fun, right? They wanted the lines. Like when that game you played, your guys wanted, when we played with Doc, Palindrome, your guys wanted the lines from the movie. But then when I played again with like Al and some other people on the server, they had no clue what the movie was whatsoever. So they didn't care whether those lines were in the movie. So then it became more of a comedic, it was like a 70s gang comedy, like, what was that, Police Academy?
Yeah, it honestly did feel a lot like that.
So any GM rep or so it's gonna gauge the table and see what the table wants, and then you adjust accordingly. So absolutely, the table dictates how the game's gonna go, not the other way around.
Oh, most definitely. That was my sentiment when I first heard the question. I thought you meant like, do the players at the table make you change whether you improv or prep? But if it's what I always improv, and it's what Anthony said, you tailor it to who's at the table.
Exactly. I just wondered if I was if I was alone in that, because I swear to goodness, like even like running the one shots, I'll frame an idea because I got inspired by something, but then the players, come through the door and it's like, okay, we got to go.
Thanks, Dean. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on your hair there, man.
So,
go ahead.
So, I'll just, throw an extra question in there, because you're like, our long lost brother that we just like to, mess with anyway. So, but finally, Chris, what do we have to look forward to from, Chris Negelein, Ganza Gaming? What's coming?
Well, I'm going to step back and get into your question a little bit, and then I'll answer that question there.
Yeah.
One of the game masters I had from a long time ago that I played for a whole summer, his setup was create a problem and let the players create the solution for him. He didn't know what the answer was. So he was like, okay, this seems kind of like not impossible. And then the guy that at Origins, Ken Hite, who just won the award for 5th edition Vampire, and then earlier this year won a few extra awards for his work with Delta Green and Call of Cthulhu style stuff.
Mm-hmm.
His advice is because he does a lot of mysteries, and his advice is sometimes if the players come up with a better solution, he just runs with it, or a solution that they seem really excited about. He was like, you know what? I'll just give it to them. They're right. This works. And then he just kind of patches some things, behind the scenes because he hasn't mentioned them yet. so they
Don't
don't exist
exist.
yet. And voila, after 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours, the players have solved it. And he's like, good job. You're more clever than I am.
You know, it's funny, Chris, you mentioned that, but that's the problem I have with puzzles. Most GMs like to use puzzles, but most GMs don't know how to really utilize a puzzle. And I'm not saying I'm one of those because I tend to avoid puzzles. I hate that you get a lot of GMs that have a puzzle and only have one solution. And if the players can't figure out that solution, it slows the game to a screeching halt. Like, why would you have anything in your game that only has one solution?
So, Anthony, that reminds me of something that happened in our game. Do you know what I'm talking about? In our D&D game way back when? When we were in, I forget, it was a dungeon or a castle or something, and it was like the toilet thing with the water and we could not figure out what the hell it was for. We spent so long trying to figure out what it did or how to use it or whatever, and it was just like a toilet or something, right? Or something dumb.
That was actually Hornet the Dragon Queen.
Yeah.
And you know what eventually happened? I eventually just gave up on it and said, okay, yeah, it works.
Yeah.
Anything that has one solution should absolutely have no business in the game.
It was so funny.
Pull the string.
Yeah.
We tried.
You know, did you bring that up, Anthony? It's kind of funny. I don't think anybody ever thought about it, until like later on. But that's just it. You can throw a puzzle into the game. You know what Chris was saying. If you guys work hard, if y'all come up with something inventive, and I can actually say I did that in the game you played when you played our Thundercats game, our Thundercat Silverhawk game. Yeah, you kept squawking. The solution to getting inside the ship and finding the material, it wasn't what you guys did, but you guys came up. And I didn't want the game to slow down. It's like, you know what? Hey, that works. I didn't think of that, but hey, they did. So I think that's
a common mistake.
Everybody doesn't think the same way. You gotta, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you think about, the riddle of the Sphinx. What creature, walks, crawls. It was about basically man. Crawling, then walking, then being able to run.
So, Chris, that's this week's Patreon exclusive. Come up with 10 puzzles or riddles that have multiple solutions.
Or one puzzle with 20 solutions.
and then talk about how to see you guys hate riddles that have one solution on it. And speaking of Chris's Patreon, please follow Chris's Patreon. You see how I let that in there? That was like perfect, right?
And we'll definitely be sure to include a link for it down below as usual.
It's well worth it. It gives you a ton of great articles.
But before we get too sidetracked, we're going to go back to the question.
This is a question we haven't answered yet.
Yeah, the last question before we rip out your soul and play with it, and pull the strings and all that, and then like slap your heart back into your chest, and then Anthony's going to take it out your back and massage it. Before we do that to you, what do we have to look forward to from Ganza Gaming if you survive?
Well, this year I'm trying to get a couple of more products out. I would like to get something out related to my Patreon, but right now nothing hardcore. I am thinking of doing another adventure. So I wish I could give you a more solid answer than that. And just to let you know, my 3 project with Patreon, one is straight up kind of like a beginner's 5e, but the other 2 are much more, should have a Cypher and a 5e component to them. One is a kind of a Weird West fantasy setting. You got your elves, you got your dwarves, but they aren't wearing sombreros, or they aren't wearing cowboy hats.
Pew pew.
Exactly. No, it's with wands. And the second one is a kind of a modern setup, kind of conspiracy murder mystery. It's based off the stuff that, like I mentioned, the guy Ken Hite.
Okay.
His really great stuff. Ken Hite is basically the Tim Powers of RPGs. And if you need to know who Tim Powers are, shame on you.
I know. I honestly, I don't know.
Tim Powers, basically, He does enough research to create an occult conspiracy and just runs with that. And by the time he kind of fills you in with the details, you're ready to believe. Look, call last call. I'll spoil it for you for the example. The 52 card deck we play with all the time, as you know, historically is based off the tarot. So what if you could still use the magic of the tarot in a 52 card deck? So that potentially turns gambling into a spell you can do, where people are buying and selling luck and their fortune, their literal fortune, not a fortune. All right. Next, what does that make? What does that make Las Vegas? Next step. Who runs Las Vegas? Who started Las Vegas? The mob. The mob were card-using magicians, wizards.
Nice.
I dig this.
Which one is it? The fourth or the third Pirates of the Caribbean? You'll see that it'll say based on, or no, it says inspired because they went way in left field by Stranger Tides, which is a Tim Powers book. Just to let you know.
Right.
That sounds awesome.
Nice.
Cool.
So you should read Tim Powers and you should read Ken Hite.
If only I knew how to read.
Dean knows I'm fascinated with anything that's mobster related.
Last call. I kind of spoiled it for you, but it's still a good read.
Yeah.
Anthony, prepare him.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, since you are our very first interview, you've never experienced 9 rapid fire questions. That's where we.
What is this rapid fire question you speak of?
Those were like these first questions we asked. That's the easy stuff. That was just testing you out to see if you were ready. If you was really ready for this CU initiation. With these 9 rapid fire questions, we dig deep into your soul. We pull out your essence. We spread it out on the table for the world to see. Are you ready for these one answer rapid fire questions?
Are you ready for how much that's going to smell when you put it on the table? Jeez,
jeez.
I have a bottle of Febreze on the side.
Okay.
I live for the smells.
Oh, jeez.
All right. So the very first question is player or GM?
GM.
Pull
Do I like
punches? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but pull punches or TPK?
Pull punches.
That sounds like someone that's done quite a few TPK. Doesn't want to seem like a bad guy.
Online or in-person gaming?
Oh, in person. No offense, guys. In person.
None offense taken. I wish I had more in-person gaming. Announce the difficulty number or keep it secret?
Per genre, but I personally prefer keeping it secret. Like if it's like Gods of the Fall, or it's very pulpy, or it's supposed to be very very easy on the players. They kind of want to just do the story. Then I announce the numbers. If we're making it a little tense and a little scary, and do you want to gamble? Do you feel lucky? I don't.
Definitely good reasons to do both, or either, I should say. But so salty or sweet snacks at the gaming table?
Ooh. Both? I lean towards salty though, but both.
Bonus question. You have a favorite snack at the gaming table? And don't say carrots.
RP? Combat?
Answer.
Oh, I didn't answer yet.
Oh.
Sorry. I mean, I would love to do peanut brittle, but my crowns and my root canals don't let me do that anymore. See? Perfect. Salt and sweet right there.
Yeah.
Yes. Next question.
RP? Combat? Or
RP, combat, and what?
a good mix?
Good mix. Good mix.
We got to take that good mix out of that question because everyone just takes the cop-out answer.
That's not a cop-out answer.
You and the 12 other people right before.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we've definitely heard people say they prefer RP over combat, but we've rarely see people who say combat.
I'm going to do the research. I think out of like the 20 interviews, 19 has said it.
I mean, I like the role, the RP and a little bit of the planning. Slow down, or they've got their act together. Combat. I mean, it's an ebb and flow. It's an ebb and flow, just like with a TV show or a movie.
It's me, right?
Yes.
Oh, this is a PDFs or physical book?
I do both. In fact, what I do is I buy the PDF if I'm highly intrigued, and then if I really like it, I buy the print and put it on my shelf, or I use it because I actually in play I prefer to kind of have the books. What is this? What is this?
No, I was giving you a thumbs up.
No, Dean did something.
I went like that.
Dean was like, yeah.
But either way, pen and paper notes or digital?
I still prefer pen and paper, but just to show you real quick.
Oh,
that's right. I gotta take my pen and paper to the next level.
Oh,
geez.
That's sexy. I mean, how would you not want to do pen and paper with that, right?
That's true.
Are you a bullet journaler like Al?
Yeah. This is a bullet journal.
Yeah.
I mean,
You're in good company.
I barely bullet journal, but it's a very nice format.
And Eric Frankhouse is also in that company of the pen and paper and this area and everything for
See,
it.
this is my character journal. For the Week game, I'm trying to give the impression that I've got like a conspiracy nut somehow following us or something like that.
You need to add again multiple things and like add some red string in there, tying them like together, and that'll really sell.
Yeah, glue them in. That's right.
Yeah, glue them in, or little pins or whatever. Like staple
Chris, are
them
you a
in there.
player in that game?
Yeah, I'm a player in this game.
Oh, that's a player dedication. He has a journal, notes.
I was ticked off I lost my glue stick so I could put more little paper clippings in there.
That's awesome.
All
All right. Last but not least, do you like pre-written or original content?
I prefer a mix of both, to be honest. I do original. I mean, I lean towards original, but I don't mind putting a mix of taking a pre-made module and taking pieces out.
Nice.
So I kind of Frankenstein it quite a bit.
We've definitely heard that answer a lot here as well. And it's definitely a good route to take. You take out the stuff you don't like, put in the stuff you do like, make it your own.
The nice part is if they didn't see it, I can recycle the pre-printed stuff they didn't see.
Exactly.
I don't know if you've hammered this point home or not for those new GMs.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, you've conquered our rapid fire questions. Congratulations, you did it. Woo.
I attribute it to my magical tabard I have with its holy spirit.
And that brings us to the end of our little discussion. It was wonderful having you back on again. It was nice actually being part of the interview this time. For our viewers who saw our first interview, I was actually not part of it. I recorded it, but it was not in it. So it was nice being part of this one.
May I share one thing before we wrap up?
Yeah, go for it.
I have to admit, of all the interviews I've done, I got the biggest bit of joy while we were doing our interview, and we were talking about Wild West stuff, and I was talking about how to use the countdown horror thing as a substitute for like the high noon draw, and all of your eyes just boom lit up, and I was like, wow.
But
that was my favorite bit, interviewing with people.
Well, thank you. It was good stuff, man.
Yeah, and you're a wealth of knowledge that we truly appreciate, and we cherish you on the server.
And and we very much appreciate having you on again. Sharing more fun times, nice discussions. And as I said earlier, we'll have all your pertinent links down below. But for people watching, like where can they find you? Like on Twitter? I'm pretty sure we had it in the first video, but we'll definitely include in this one as well. But for people who didn't see that video, like where can people find you online?
If they want to deal with the whole 2 hours of me, I guess. Save their souls.
No, but like, is there like Twitter or like where can people find you?
Yeah, I have a Twitter now. I have a Patreon now. I'm still trying to figure out how a writer uses Instagram, but some people have it figured out.
You could put a word a day.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, if we would just spell it out, Patreon/Ganza Gaming. My Twitter. Give me just a second.
But
We're gonna put all those links at the bottom.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, misunderstood.
yeah, so yeah, we'll definitely.
Got that part out.
What happened? No, well, it's whatever. But again, we'll have all those links to all your social medias down below, as well as any of the drive-through RPG products we mentioned in this video. We'll be sure to link those as well, so people have a chance to reach out and either see or buy the stuff that we talked about. And yeah, any last thoughts, fellas, before we close this out?
Oh, you want to go first, Dean, or you want me to go?
All I gotta say once again, you know what, Chris, thanks for coming on. Thanks for being a part of the crew. The family over at Cypher Unlimited. Continue the great work, and let's get some gaming in, man. We still have not got our game in.
I know.
I was going to say that 14 months ago, we said, hey, we got to get Chris to run us a game on our YouTube channel. And here we are 14 months later. It still hasn't happened. Chris, all you have to do is show up. You literally have to show up. You have 3 players right here.
Oh, but
Well, I was going to say one other thing. Chris, on behalf of the CEO, you do great stuff. I mean, and this is not because you're a friend, but you truly deserve all the accolades we give you. You are probably the most important content creator on the Cypher, content creation program outside of Monte Cook Games. Everything you do is top-notch, top quality, and I want to preach it on the mountaintops. People should check your stuff out. Mortal Fantasy, Cruel Stars. You have no idea how much your stuff has been used on our server.
it's true.
By multiple gamers, not only us personally, but other people on our server. That's why you have 20 or 30 people constantly referencing your material. And I just want you to know, I know that it's difficult sometimes for you with work and everything, but keep it going, man. You truly are doing great things, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, just keep on pushing out that good stuff. People, keep buying it, hopefully. And if any indication of people talking about your stuff, I'm pretty sure they'll continue to support you. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching. Be sure to like, share, subscribe. Be sure to hit that little bell if you want to be part of our notification crew. Get notifications every time we send out something or put something out there. And from us at CU, we will see you later.
Later. Bye.